Our story begins in the heart of the Black Hills of South Dakota, where the air is thick with the scent of pine and the whispers of the past. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving a twilight haze that cloaked the forest in shadows. I stood at the edge of the clearing, my heart racing as I gazed at the old cabin, rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who vanished without a trace. My friends Sarah and Jake were already making their way toward it, their laughter echoing through the trees, oblivious to the chill that crept up my spine. The locals had warned us about the place, but curiosity had drawn us in like moths to a flame. As we approached the cabin, the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that seemed to swallow us whole. The door creaked open with a reluctant groan, revealing a dark interior filled with ash hot in decay. I hesitated at the threshold, feeling an inexplicable pull to step inside, while Sarah and Jake exchanged excited glances. The air was stale, heavy with the weight of forgotten memories, and I could almost hear the echoes of the past whispering through the walls. A chill ran down my spine as I crossed the threshold, the darkness enveloping me like a shroud. Inside, the air felt charged, as if the very walls were alive with secrets. I could see Sarah flipping through an old tattered journal she found on a rickety table, her eyes wide with excitement. "Look at this," she exclaimed, her voice echoing in the stillness. The journal detailed the lives of the family who once lived here, their joys and sorrows, but it also spoke of strange occurrences, disappearances, shadows in the night, and a darkness that seemed to seep from the very ground. My heart raced as I read the words, a sense of foreboding settling over me like a heavy fog. As the night deepened, the atmosphere grew heavier, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways. I felt a sudden chill, as if someone, or something, was watching us. Jake, ever the skeptic, laughed it off, but I could see the unease in his eyes. "It's just an old cabin," he said, trying to sound brave, but I knew better. The stories of the lost souls lingered in the air, and I could almost hear their cries for help. The wind howled out and rattling the windows, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the cabin, causing us all to jump. My heart raced as we exchanged terrified glances, the laughter from earlier replaced by a palpable fear. "What was that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. We crept toward the sound, our flashlights flickering as we moved deeper into the darkness. The air felt electric, charged with an unseen energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. The shadows danced around us, and I could almost hear the whispers of the lost souls urging us to leave. We reached the back room, where the crash had come from, and found a broken chair lying on the floor. My heart sank as I realized it had been pushed over, as if someone, or something, had been there with us. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon us. "This isn't funny anymore," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Just then, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing our flashlights and plunging us into darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone, the dim light barely cutting through the blackness. As we scrambled to turn our lights back on, a low guttural whisper echoed through the room, sending chills down my spine. "Get out," it seemed to say, the voice barely audible, yet unmistakably clear. I felt a surge of terror as I glanced at my friends, their faces pale and wide-eyed. "We need to leave," I urged, but before we could move, the door slammed shut, trapping us inside. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I could hear the whispers growing louder, a cacophony of voices pleading for release. In the suffocating darkness, I felt a surge of adrenaline. "We have to find another way out," I shouted, my voice echoing in the confined space. We rushed to the windows, but they were sealed tight, as if the cabin itself was holding us captive. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of despair that clawed at my sanity. Just when I thought all hope was lost, I spotted a small window at the back barely ajar. "Over there," I yelled, and we scrambled toward it. The whispers now, a frantic plea for us to escape. As we pushed against the window, the whispers turned into screams, a cacophony of voices urging us to flee. I felt a cold hand brush against my arm, and I froze, terror gripping my heart. "Go! Go!" Jake shouted, and with one final push, we squeezed through the window, tumbling into the cool night air. We landed on the forest floor, gasping for breath, the cabin looming behind us like a dark sentinel. The whispers faded into the night, but the feeling of being watched lingered, a reminder of the horrors we had just escaped. We ran through the forest, branches scratching at our skin, the darkness closing in around us. The whispers had turned to laughter, a haunting sound that echoed through the trees. I glanced back at the cabin, its windows dark and empty, but I could feel the weight of its gaze upon us. "We need to get to the road," Sarah cried, her voice filled with panic. We pushed forward, adrenaline fueling our flight, but the laughter followed us, a chilling reminder of the spirits we had disturbed. Finally, we burst onto the dirt road, the moonlight bathing us in its pale glow. We collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath, the laughter fading into the distance. "What just happened?" Jake panted, his eyes wide with disbelief. I could hardly process it myself, the events of the night swirling in my mind like a storm. The cabin was a place of nightmares, a trap for the unwary, and we had barely escaped its grasp. But as I looked back, I couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers would always follow us, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the trees. As we made our way back to town, the weight of the night hung heavy on our shoulders. The laughter of the spirits echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of what we had encountered. I glanced at my friends, their faces pale and drawn, and I knew we would never be the same. The stories of the cabin would haunt us, a dark shadow over our memories. We had ventured into the unknown and returned, but the whispers would always linger, a testament to the horrors that lay hidden in the woods. Back in town, we shared our story with the locals, but they only nodded knowingly, as if they had heard it all before. "The cabin has a way of drawing people in," an old man said, his voice gravelly and low. "Many have gone, but few return." I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the truth in his words. The cabin was more than just a building. It was a living entity, feeding on fear and despair. We had escaped, but the darkness would always be a part of us. As we left the diner, I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin was still watching us, its whispers echoing in my mind. I glanced back at the darkened woods, a sense of dread settling over me. "We should never have gone there," I murmured, but my friends remained silent, lost in their thoughts. The night had changed us, and I knew we would carry the weight of our experience forever. The whispers would haunt our dreams, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the trees. In the weeks that followed, we tried to return to normalcy, but the whispers never faded. They crept into our dreams, twisting our thoughts and filling our nights with terror. I often found myself staring into the woods, half expecting to see the cabin emerge from the shadows. The stories we had heard about the lost souls became our reality, and I knew we had only scratched the surface of the darkness that lay within. The cabin was a part of us now, a haunting reminder of the thin line between the living and the dead.